You know,
What do
it's
you think?
it's actually good we're talking about that because you had to learn how to have joy through all the suffering of
Oh, you're
working out and dieting and all that stuff. And I know that's something you care a lot about, Hudson, is that topic, the joy in suffering. Like how has that showed up in your life?
Yeah, it's been a huge part and just like really it's grown my faith in Jesus a bunch because I've suffered a lot in some different ways, and God can use His suffering for good, which He has, because it's only pushed me closer to Him. And obviously, like early on in my when my faith journey kind of just started, my mom passed, and so that's ultimately what led me to Christ was through her suffering and the way that she had joy in it, which as she was dying, which blew me away. And it just was kind of full circle because this last about a month and a half ago, like my family is super, super close. And from my mom's death, like the Lord has spread like wildfire throughout our family. Once I kind of came, then my grandpa saw us doing Bible studies at his house and baptized my grandpa. And then my grandpa's like the patriarch of our family, and him and my grandmother, started doing Bible studies every night together. And my cousins, we do Bible studies together now. And it's just kind of blown up, which has been, and all through the death of my mother, which some people will say was like the worst thing ever, but it sounds crazy. It's one of the bigger blessings because it's led me to Christ, and everybody that I get to affect and touch is because of her and the way she glorified the Lord through her suffering. And then, but here recently, a month and a half ago, my grandmother suddenly passed away, which we weren't expecting it. My grandparents are like my best friends. But the Lord has given me a ton of peace about it. And with my grandfather, they were married like 60 years, like, and they were
It's
best
incredible.
and like best friends. A lot of people are married that long and they're, whatever, they don't like each other, but they were like
Right.
best friends. And so I was really worried about him because he's still super smart, very cognitively there. And but just to see to the Lord give him joy through the suffering and comfort has just blown my mind away. And at her funeral, and since then there's been two. I know one person came to Christ through her funeral, getting to
Wow.
talk about it through her eulogy and the way she glorified the Lord. And I think people could look in and see our family and wonder, yes, like we're sad and we're mourning, but like we hold on to something like so much greater than what this life has to offer, and that's in Jesus. And happiness comes in waves, but like joy is something the Lord like persistently gives. And so that's just been really neat to see that through my grandfather, and to see people like literally come to Christ through it. Of like, man, like there's this terrible thing that happened, but these people are still praising the Lord. They still have joy in it. It's not setting them back. Yes, we're mourning, we're there for each other, and it's hard, but like the Lord literally brings joy through that. And so the mind shift kind of switches, and it's like, from when my mom passed away, I stuffed it all down, and that's why it's cool to look back on how differently those two events were perceived from myself, because I just stuffed it down. I started going downtown all the time, just anything to suppress my mind. And with my grandmother, which it's been like 6 or 7 years later, it's fully been to where not why is this happening? It's just, Lord, how can I glorify you through this? And
Mhm.
it's hard, like it's extremely hard because I love my grandmother, but ultimately we're all going to be together again someday. And
Yeah.
and she's in her true home. And so it's just cool to see how through hard things or whatever you're going through, the Lord can bring people to him through that. And so just looking at the way of like, Lord, how can I glorify you in it? And what are you doing, as opposed to like, why me? And
Right.
I
That's
think,
an incredible legacy that your mom sort of just kick-started. I mean, I know the way it happened was, probably horrific and traumatic, but the fact that it, just lit the fire and then you helped it spread and your sister just graduated seminary and,
yes,
your grandparents came to know Christ in, I don't know how old they are, but,
yeah, 80
in
years old,
later. Oh yeah, at 80. See, it's
got
never too
baptized
late. You
baptized.
what?
He got baptized at 80.
That's incredible. Like that gives me chills. Like it's never too late. That is
Yeah.
incredible. And you can have that joy and suffering.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just kind of sitting with that. Like that's just an amazing, amazing legacy. That is so cool. And I'm sorry that happened, but
Nice.
I love seeing your testimony of how y'all got through it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
he can
Sorry,
work.
I'm not often at a loss for words. I'm just
No,
sitting with
yeah,
that.
he can work good through anything, no matter what it is. And I think that it's easy to look at, terrible things that happen, and I think people need to also realize, just the way that I view it, is that, God, as I look through the scripture, God's heart isn't like for you to suffer, isn't for cancer, it isn't for death, isn't for any of those things. But like the enemy, we live in a broken world. The enemy is the prince of this world, and so he causes these things to happen, but the Lord uses them for good. And just like the enemy, he thought his greatest accomplishment was crucifying Jesus, but that was the worst thing that he's ever done.
Yeah, big mistake.
This world. And so you talk about joy through suffering, you talk about how God can use a terrible event, and that was literally the worst event in history, and he used it to be the best event for us. And so
Yeah.
it's true life.
I'm always so grateful, obviously, for his sacrifice. And I'm reading the Bible in a year because I've just never done that. And
Yeah, it's
I'm
awesome.
in Leviticus, which,
Yeah,
oh,
sacrifices a lot of.
oh my gosh, it is all about where to spray the blood of the cow and the goat and all this crazy stuff. And if every time I get done reading a few chapters, I'm like, thank God for Jesus, because we don't have to do this. I don't have to go out and behead a goat and all this. It's crazy the hoops that people used to have to jump through before Christ came. And even though Leviticus is a little rough, I'm just grateful for that. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to kill
Yeah,
a cow.
go straight to him. Don't need
Well, and
it.
if he wants to, that suffering, like you said, it's not always from Christ. He doesn't cause
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm saying.
type of strife, but at the same time, a lot of that can be a testament of our faith and how much do we actually believe in the joy that will come from the suffering. Because whether it's trials in your life or a death or you're mourning or you are just trying to get rid of an addiction or you are starting a new thing in your life and you're scared a little bit,
Yeah,
the suffering that you go through is all preparation. I mean, nothing that we all don't already know, but it's almost like, are you willing to remain faithful in that suffering? Or how far are you willing to trust God, or are you just going to complain all the time
yeah.
and kind of make it your personality?
Yeah.
um
And it can hurt. It
it
does hurt.
hurts. It doesn't take away the
Oh
pain,
yeah,
no doubt,
Yeah,
but
Jesus was human. He knew
Jesus wept. Jesus
yes, he
wept.
he cried when Lazarus died. He was, grieving. And that's the best part about him is he knows exactly everything we've gone through because he lived it. I mean, he went through it. And it always sounds weird when I say this, but anytime someone I know dies, there's always a tiny part of me that's a little bit jealous because I'm like, man, they get to see
Yeah, it's
Christ. They get to see what heaven's like. And I'm like, I'm a little jealous. Like, I don't want to die. I don't have a death wish, but like, I'm always like, man, what are they doing right now? What are they getting to see? I can't even imagine what your grandparents and your mom are
yeah.
doing up there. That's
Well, I
so
think when
cool.
you also find that joy and you look for it and you go to the text and you find joy in the suffering, even though, yeah, your life could be going up in shambles, but if you actually find the joy, there's so much about it that I think, because it's one of those things where I say it, I don't mean to bring up my own personal experiences. I felt it, and it's a type of love almost that life isn't quite going the way you think, or it's not quite exactly on the road you thought you were supposed to take, but
Yeah.
there's such a peace within you knowing that there's better coming. There's a peace about it. It's almost like you don't worry anymore. And people say, oh, well, it's unfair, the people that suffer and they're good people. It's unfair, the people do this. And I'm like, if life was fair, then it would be us who was on the cross, not Jesus, if life was fair. And I think that's where I try to educate a lot of people that ask me is, are you actually trusting in your suffering that good's going to come out of it? Do you actually believe that? Because
Yeah.
if you don't, then you're not going to have a peace about it. You're not going to find peace about it. Your daughter just broke something.
Yeah, my daughter just broke something. I don't know what that was. Hope dad's got it, but you know,
That sounded.
I'm telling you, the more you become a mom, the more you're just like,
What was
Whatever.
that?
whatever. No one's crying.
Sorry, that was too loud. I could not avoid that. It sounded like she knocked over a bookshelf.
You want to talk suffering, getting through toddler stage. Oh my word. I need all kinds of
Sorry,
joy
that
of the
was too
Lord.
loud. I was like, what the heck did she just know?
Oh goodness.
Jesse.
I don't know what she's doing, but that's probably my cue that I need to go help dad. So this has been an incredible conversation, and as always, we could talk to you for hours. And
Yeah,
we want to talk to your sister soon.
yeah,
I know she just
yeah,
graduated seminary. I want to pick her brain.
yeah. She's happy to. I'll get her set up with y'all. Before I want to share one thing the Lord's kind of put on my heart that I think
Yes.
it can apply to with lust or all those different things. And so in Proverbs, it talks about, it says the beginning of a relationship with the Lord is like when we fear him. It doesn't mean fear to where I'm scared. It means like a holy awe, a reverence of who he is. And, that was something for a long time that I was like, man, like, how do I have that all the time? And, I never like really knew, because sometimes I really, really have it. And sometimes I would be more, just not as immune to sin or to temptation. And anyway, I was in Proverbs the other day. There's literally Proverbs 3, I think. And I was reading it, and it was talking about the same thing about the fear of the Lord. And it said, you must seek it out like hidden treasure, or like fine, like silver, and you will have it. And I was like, dude, it's literally right there. And it's something that I just never had really understood. And it's so cool, and that you can, if you fully seek that out, it's like, I'm so willing to get up at 4 a.m. to go to the golf course, at 4 a.m. to go to work or go hunting or something like that. But if I have to get up early, am I able to set the alarm 30 minutes or an hour earlier, so I can truly get in the Word? Like, what's truly important to me? Am I really going to seek that out like it's hidden treasure and the most important thing to me? Because I can't complain that I don't have the fear of the Lord, or my relationship's lacking with him, if I'm not putting in that effort with him. And so that's something that really convicted me. But it's awesome, because it's like a different revelation that I haven't really had. And so the last like few months have really been trying to like seek that out with, trying with everything that I have. And it's been really cool. It's just been at the top of my mind, at the top of my spirit. It makes it a lot easier to walk with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look up that verse, and I'll have to sit with that and kind of meditate on that, because that's a good one. I think it touches on everything we're talking about today. So
Was it in Luke or John?
he said Proverbs. You said Proverbs, right?
First one, 2,
I
and
was reading Luke today, and that
1, 2,
sounds
and
so
3.
familiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounded a little familiar.
That happens a lot with the Bible. You'll be like, I've heard
No,
this
I thought it
before. The
was-
Bible's very
First Peter talks
interconnected.
about it too, about just giving it your best
Yeah.
effort. And I was like, dang, like how, I give a lot of these other things my best effort, but I'm giving Christ my best effort. And so I can't complain about, or be like, Lord, just heal this problem from me. But it's like, if I'm not willing to spend time with him, then it's not just going to happen. Like, it takes, like, you actually have to put in like effort to spend time with him. You have to have a relationship with him. Just like it says in the verse about, Lord, like, we casted out demons in your name. He says, depart from me, I never knew you. But if you're not in true relationship with him, then like it doesn't mean anything. And you can say it in your head, but if you're not truly spending time with him, then it doesn't really matter. And he just wants relationship with you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of distraction though too that causes that. Is we get so wound up in our own lives. I mean, we're all guilty of it. We do it. We all have jobs. We got to pay the bills. But that distraction can be another tactic for the devil to take you away from God's purpose. And that's so true.
Even something that can seem like a good thing, like work or your career, yeah. I mean, I know you sell a lot of real estate and do a lot of land deals, and realtors have to work like all the time. People want to see places.
Yeah, a lot of kids especially.
Yes, exactly. So I can imagine it's hard to, make sure your priorities are in the right place, because you got to eat, you got to make money.
Yeah.
So that's the work is always tricky for me. Because, as a lawyer, I want to, you want to appear tough and capable, and you feel like if you talk about Jesus in the workplace, people are going to look at you funny or think you're weak in some way. Do you have that come up at work? Like, does your faith enter that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, it's since I've joined up with my new team, we do actually start a Bible study every Monday morning with them. And so, and that's been a huge answered prayer. And we've all grown a lot closer together through that. But yeah, just in general with kind of whoever's around, it took a big leap for me to realize like he's with me wherever I go, and I can just like talk to him wherever I go, and like truly setting aside that time, whether I'm in the car or even like before I have a showing, like, Lord, just like let me glorify you, like let your spirit work through me, let them see you through me. And obviously, you know, if he presents the opportunity, then I will 100%, you know, talk about the Lord. And there's been plenty of times where that has happened. And then other times I'm just trying to do the absolute best job that I can do so they can see something that's different with me, and the attention that I pay to of what I do and the due diligence that goes in behind it. And so I can glorify him with whatever it is that I'm doing. Just back to that same verse, Colossians 3:23, you know, do everything as you're doing to glorify him. But as far as like, just like in the workplace in general, like in the office or whatever, like I pray for, you know, guys in the office and stuff like that behind closed doors all the time, the Lord to bring those things up. And for the gym, same thing. Like the gym, like I've had awesome conversations and just seeing a huge growth from people, from just just praying about them every day. And when the Lord, he'll bring up those situations to where I can't, or they would literally come and ask. And because when you pray good things, like your father's a good father, he's going to give good gifts, and like he will answer those prayers. Like you call him into the character that he is. He wants to do stuff like that. It's just, and when we're prayerful about it, then we're going to be so much easier. It's going to be a lot easier for us to recognize what he's doing, because he's always working. And it's never that he's not working. It's that we're not looking. And I forgot about, I'm so distracted. But whenever I'm giving it my best effort and trying to talk with him throughout the day, then I'm like, man, here's God doing this and that and that. And it just makes it way easier.
Yeah, I'll admit sometimes I'm scared to pray that prayer, and it's embarrassing to admit that. The whole like, Lord, use me, or Lord, show me who you want me to talk to, because then I have to do it. Like then I have to like get up the courage and do it. So sometimes I'm like scared to even pray the prayer, but it takes confidence. It does.
But that's the thing too, going to and even telling him, because there's a lot of times like there's like the other day we're coming back from that hunting trip, and there's a guy that his father got killed by the cartel, our outfitter in Mexico. And I was so tired. I had Mexican food for like a week. Disgusting. And I was like, get me out of Mexico. Get me out of here. And I did not want to talk. And he was talking to me and asking what I did. And I just felt like the Lord would bring up passion and action. And he started to ask about that. And I'm like, okay, like the Lord wants me to talk about this. And I got to share about my mom, because he was, you know, thinking that because of what happened to his dad, the guy was angry, and just got to share with him the heart behind Jesus and got to pray with him. And he's like, man, you really changed my perspective and things like that. And I, you know, it wasn't because of me, but I was just willing to at least listen. But I would literally, like when that was happening, I was telling the Lord, like, Lord, I don't want to do this. Change my heart. And because that's like how David would pray, you know, he would just truly pour out his heart. And the Lord knows if we don't want to do something, we do want to do it. And so I'll literally like say that, like if I feel a certain way that it's not, you know, godlike or whatever, I, you know, call in his character for me, I'll tell him like, Lord, I don't want to do this, or Lord, like I hate this person right now, like change my heart, like help me out how you see him, give me like grace for that. And he does. And because a lot of people are scared to like, oh, well, like God's gonna, if I say this, that's not a godlike prayer. It's like he knows your heart. Like if I want to,
he already knows. Yeah,
I go push somebody off a bridge, like he already knows it. Just like ask change my heart. And it says in Matthew 6 that he will reward you. Like the creator of the universe will reward you when you go in your closet or behind closed doors and pray to him and pour out your heart. It says, I already know your heart. And it's like, if I talked with you all the time and you knew what I was going to say, you'd be like, Hudson, enough. I don't want to hear you, dude. And the Lord does the opposite. He's like, yes, pour everything out to me. And he already knows it, but he just wants us to get it out to him, and he will literally reward you for it. I've seen it.
Yeah. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be willing. Yeah. Like he can use our willingness, even if we're, you know, kicking and screaming.
Sure.
But staying in that obedience too, because sometimes you don't feel like doing something, but he didn't ask your flesh, he asked your soul. So you got to be willing to say, okay, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to anyway. And that's that dying to yourself. That's that discipline. Because again, our life is not ours, it's his. And I don't want to get to heaven knowing that he's like, man, I had this plan for you, and this is what I wanted for your life, and you were too scared or too fearful, or you didn't obey me, and then I have to live with that. That scares me to death. I think that's more where that fear of the Lord comes in, is I don't want to have that happen come judgment day. That would scare me.
No kidding. And we've touched on so many amazing things. Is there anything you wanted
Yeah,
to add?
you could deal with Jesse. I have a few more.
Oh no, I'm not in a hurry. I want to make sure we touch on everything we wanted
Well,
to touch on.
it was funny. You brought up your hunting, and I will say, like, this is kind of completely left field,
Yeah.
but I just went on that hunting trip myself for, well, just for fun. But we went for, it was a pastor's refuge, and Pastor Chris was kind of our guide, so to speak. But it was on, it wasn't on any kind of, on this property, it was high fence, but nothing, everything was native. Nothing was genetically modified. And I'll be honest, on this hunting trip, it was freezing. I was exhausted and I was on PTO, but my phone would not stop going off. My emails would not stop going off. And I was like, man, I'm so distracted. And I was so frustrated because when I'm hunting, I want to focus on that. Like, that's such a peace to be with the Lord and just watch the sunrise or just sit there and enjoy the nature. And I remember the pastor was sitting here and my dad was sitting behind us, and he could tell something was on my mind, and I was just not wanting to talk. I was like, I'm kind of mad right now. I was just irritated. Everything was just irritating me. And I was sitting there quietly, and he kind of like looks at me and he's like, he just asked me, he was like, hey, if you want to talk, like, the deer aren't here yet. And I was like, no, we're not talking. I was
Pastors know. They just
I was sitting there. I
know.
was like, no, we're good. Like, we're good.
We're good.
Like, no, and he was like, okay. And then he's like, so have you read my book yet? And because he gave me his book, and I was like, no, not yet. But essentially what I'm getting at is when I kind of brought that wall down and I allowed God to work through my heart in that moment, even when I didn't feel like it and I was really upset. That pastor and I had one of the most eye-opening conversations that I think I needed so badly at that point in my life. And it was on a hunting trip with my dad that
And a deer blind.
I cherish so much. And my dad can't hear worth anything. He can't hear. So he's just sitting in the back having a good
Oblivious.
old time. Oblivious. And he did say that he heard the pastor, he was asking me questions about my life and kind of where I thought it should be and just asking me questions, just kind of getting vulnerable. And I was like, man, I really don't want to say anything because it makes me feel like I'm complaining. But when I finally just poured it out to him, he had given me some advice that no one's really given me before.
Yeah.
And when I really digested it, I took it home with me. I read his book that night, the next day, and that following week. And his book was all about saying yes, actually, like, doing things and pursuing, and how he talked about his journey when he was in a wheelchair and how he got out of it and just all this stuff. And I was sitting there like, it makes you feel almost guilty for the things you complain about, but at the same time, I was like, you kind of get, it was almost like a friendly back slap. I was like, okay, I need to reposture my heart. I was so focused on work and I was so focused on helping everybody and answering my phone that the pastor was like, what he asked me was, have you had a day of Sabbath? And I was like, yeah, I go to church. He goes,
Yeah.
Mm-mm. He's like, not that.
Not that.
And I was like, and that's why I was like, it's never been asked of me in that way. And I went, what do you mean? Like, of course I go to church. He goes, day of rest. And
Yeah.
I went, well, no. I was like, I have so much to do. There's no possible, I have to laundry, I have to clean. I was blah, 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 blah. And he goes, yeah, you need a day of Sabbath. And I was like, okay. And then I actually took his advice and I had a day. I missed church, but I still read my word and I literally did nothing. I stayed in my pajamas and I realized how much my body wasn't used to that. My body was not used to that. I felt so guilty that I was resting and I was like, I have to be doing something. I have to go outside. I have to go feed my cardinals. Like, I got to go do something. And I finally just sat there and I was like, no, rest. And when I rested that next week, I felt so much better. It's almost like I spent a different type of intimacy with the Lord.
Yeah.
And this pastor was poking at me a little bit because he could tell I was like, I just want to shoot this deer and I just want to go home.
Oh yeah.
I'm so mad.
Like Hudson said, God knows your heart, and he's probably sitting there looking at you, knowing exactly how you're feeling, and he kind of nudged that pastor like, hey,
He did.
Talk to her.
And he was looking through his binoculars and he was like, so. And I was like, you're gonna they're like, they can hear you. And he was like, oh, fine. And I was like,
Gonna scare the deer.
yeah. And then finally that night, that was where it hit me that no one's ever asked me if I've ever had a day of Sabbath. And that sounds kind of weird, but the next day, we're sitting there and I'm like, my mood was so different. I was so happy. I was so grateful just to
That's
even be there. It was a presence about being there with him, knowing he just prayed over me, knowing that I get to experience this, and I'm incredibly blessed that that morning he goes, he's got his binoculars on, and he's like, he taps my leg and he goes, "Get your gun." And I went, "Oh, because I can't see that far yet." No, the sun was barely peeking out, and he goes, "When you're ready,
shoot it.
shoot." And I was like, "Oh God." And it was on the third day, it was on the last day, and I was like, I was like, man, if it doesn't happen, I'm just grateful to be here. But he just goes, "Get your gun." And so
So at least he got a little too restful.
yeah. And
Okay.
so lo and behold, I was able to take home a very nice 10 point, and
So,
we're eating off him good. But it was that whole entire experience almost was a cleanse that I didn't know I needed from my work life, from the distractions, from the disobedience, and just from thinking that I had to try and get everything in line for Jesus when Jesus was like, "I didn't ask you to do that. Like, that's not your job."
Isn't it
And
crazy how we will put an email ahead of God? Like, it makes you feel like, ugh.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
God
Like,
was just telling me, "Hey, look, you need to just be. You need to be right here with Pastor Chris." And Pastor Chris didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me, but he and I like quickly became really good friends after that.
I think the Bible says, I might be misquoting it, I hope I'm not, but it says that Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness to pray. Like
did.
often, not,
Yeah.
once every 6
All
months.
by himself,
Often.
prayer all the time.
Mhm.
Exactly.
He had
So
to do it.
like,
He definitely needs to do it.
Yeah. And I think he could tell I was frustrated with my work because my work phone was in my pocket, and it was just like it wouldn't stop. It would not stop. And it was that distraction that I think he was like, you're allowed to actually not touch that. You're allowed to not, you're on PTO. Like, you don't have to do that. But in my head, I thought, I have to help. I can't let this fall on somebody else. And he's like, but isn't that also their job to cover you on PTO? And so when I actually took his advice, and now I definitely take Sabbath very seriously, that was a cleanse. That's the only word I can use, is it was a cleanse.
how do you find a Sabbath day being a real estate agent? Because I feel like
Yeah.
your weekends are
Laughing,
just
but you're
booked.
right.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but I do try and do it as much as I can. Whenever I have a family and stuff too, that'll be something that's like 100% set. Whether that's probably be on Sunday. I think it's super super important. Even this week, like I was sick a couple of days, and just being able to have that to where I've set things aside, and I was like, I literally just like chilled and didn't like get out of my sweats. And
Yep.
it's like the best. And I felt so good the next day. I was like, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
helps you be a lot more present, I think, too. And just gives you some time to
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
reflect, count your blessings. And when it says, there's a study that says when you are grateful, you can't be anxious. And so that's why it says in the scripture was like, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and thanksgiving. And so when we're thankful and we're able to count that, then you're never going to be anxious. So
Yeah.
It's true.
it's tough.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially as a mom, it's hard to find that time.
Yeah.
It gets way harder when you have kids because they don't care about Sabbath. They don't know anything about it. And
No.
for me, it's not necessarily I have to be by myself, but I need to be
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
I don't want my child to look up at me and see the back of my phone. Like I want her to see me. So that's been a discipline I've had to really work on. I'm not always great at it, but I'll work on it.
But isn't it cool that even none of us are going to be ever perfect at it? But that's the point, is that
need him.
we need him. We cannot function without him. And I think that was God's gentle way of even showing me, hey, you gotta let work go. You gotta let somebody else help you. And that's hard for me because doing everything by yourself for such an extended period of time, it becomes a habit. It becomes something that you have to unlearn to let somebody in, to let somebody help you. But when the pastor did, it was almost like I just smiled with gratitude because I was like, man, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry I was so worried about work. And the rest of the weekend was absolute bliss. The hunting trip was wonderful. The stories told around a fire. I mean, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. But I got clocked. I got clocked a little bit.
Hey,
Yeah.
good talking. Sometimes what we need.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, and that hunt that you had in Mexico that looked beautiful. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, hunting is something else. That's why I tell people sometimes you just need to go off in the wilderness. Just go get lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go get lost somewhere.
It'll reset everything for you for sure. It's
Are you going to do a shoulder mount on that one?
Yeah, I'll be doing a shoulder mount on him. It was kind of a similar situation. We'd been like 7 days and like probably 60 hours of hunting and nothing even close to where we're shooting. And I was doing the same thing. Like I was on my phone. Like my guides didn't speak any English, and my buddies that were there, their guides spoke English, so we couldn't really communicate. And so I was kind of frustrated. I was like, these guys, and my guide was sleeping. I was like, dude, take a siesta. And anyway, I was just there like frustrated. And I was like on my phone because we hadn't seen anything. And then I was just like, dude, you just start talking to the Lord. And I just started counting my blessings, and it was like, Lord, like change my heart to just let me be like content in you. I'm so grateful to be able to come out here and just be able to enjoy your creation. Like it's what I love to do, whether I kill anything or not. Mm-hmm. And like my heart like was truly like meant that in that moment. And as soon as I said I was content, that buck starts to walk out. And it doesn't always happen that way, but it's just cool how God does things like that. And it literally, like, as soon as I said that happened. And I've had a couple of different instances where he does. And, you know, Jesus is so compassionate. And when you bring him into situations, he wants to do things like that. And look at in John 2, when Jesus turned water to wine, he didn't even want to do that really as his first like miracle, but he had compassion on those workers that they had ran out of wine and did it. And so just bring him into every situation you can, and he shows up in a lot of the times in some pretty cool ways.
Yeah. Especially when I like, even silly as it was, when I texted you about the cow elk in Ruidoso, it was so silly. Like now that I think about it, it's so silly because I drive a lot. That's all I do. And sometimes I don't even drive with music because I'm just so in awe of what I see in the mountains. And I kind of wish I could walk around a little bit, but I was driving in Ruidoso. I was like, God, please let me see something. I was like, I just want to see if it was a bull elk, that'd be really cool. But I was like, I'm not going to get greedy. I was like, I want to see some wildlife. Like, just show me your creation, show me your love. And kid you not, it was 15 minutes from the gas station that I was at, that pack that I showed you chilling on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what happens if I accidentally swerve into one of them? Do what?
I said, there's another example right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was like, what happens if I accidentally swerve into him right now? I have to strap it to the car.
I don't think any prayer's too silly for God. Like he
just wants you to talk. He just wants you to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. And it was something so simple. You could ask him to show you little things. Like people always say, show me a butterfly or something. But it's like, if that's your way of just wanting to see his grace and his mercy.
Whatever keeps you talking to him.
Yeah.
As much throughout the day as I can, as silly as whatever it is. If you heard my prayers, you probably think I'm a weirdo or a golden retriever. I'm not squirrels or something. But he just wants you to talk to him.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. We touched on so many areas. We loved having you back on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Well, was there anything else that was on your heart that you wanted to address before we kind of close out?
I think that the fear of the Lord part was the main thing, and that, you know, if anybody's really struggling with porn or just lust in general, to know that Jesus gives you the grace to overcome it. It's not yourself. You can't do it alone, and to not sell him short. Know the resurrection power of Jesus lives within you, and he can help you overcome anything. He made the world, so he can sure enough help you with any sin struggles that you're going through, and to also bring it into the light amongst your brothers and sisters in Christ, whatever you're struggling with, because the enemy wants you to keep it in the dark. But when you bring it in the light, it's like so freeing and just gives room for God to work. And so just not to doubt what he can do, and just know that you can't do it yourself. You have to do it like fully by his grace. It's his grace that allows you to do it. And he wants to give that to you, and you just got to have faith for it and rely on it and be desperate for him to do it, and he'll do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Beautiful way to end it. We're so glad we got to talk to you. We will still stay in touch. You know, like we said, we might have your sister on. I want to pick her seminary brain.
Put y'all in a group chat, but she'd love to. I know for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great, actually. I bet, God, wealth of knowledge she is.
Oh, yeah. She's going to put me to shame.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. Well, thanks again for talking to us and sharing your wisdom and your walk and your journey. I know it helps thousands of people. So, yeah, I guess we will close it out. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for today, and just thank you for letting us be able to get to talk about you, Lord. I just pray that you bless the Let's Talk About Something podcast, Father, Lord, and and just all the good that they're doing. And I just pray that this just gets to who it needs to get to, and it's just nothing about myself or nothing about them, but only about you, Father, and the things that you've worked through us. And I just pray that it gets to who it needs to get to, and we're so thankful for you and your Son Jesus, for him dying on the cross for our sins. And just pray that we're able to look to you and not the world. And we just love you so much. We're so grateful for you. And we just ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. We often forget to pray.
We get so
This the
excited.
most simple thing, we often forget to do that. So thank you so much for that. Been good seeing you, and we will stay in touch.